Hello and welcome to Creative Marketing TV. My name is Susan Joy Schlief. I'm the founder and host of Creative Marketing TV. And on this show, we alternate between demonstrations of different techniques that you can use for your visual marketing and video marketing. And we have guests, and today we have a guest, Margaret Eves, who's going to share some ideas that she's using to market her online service business. Margaret specializes in genealogy, and I just have really enjoyed the information that she's shared and some very creative videos. So I asked her if she would come and share some of her ideas with you. So Margaret, go ahead and unmute yourself and welcome to Creative Marketing TV.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Let me just realized I did not switch my opening screen back to my webcam.
There you are.
Yes. So to get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do in your business and how you came up with the idea and got started with it.
Okay. Well, the main thing I do with my business is I offer my customers a way to tell about their ancestors, tell about their genealogy research, and tell about their family history by using video. And I have a course that shows them how to create short videos and how to find what they need to do to create an engaging video that would get their family excited about their family history. So that's mostly what I do, and just anything related to that, doing genealogy and finding historic images. Those are all things I enjoy and that my audience enjoys.
Great. And so you have a course that people can download
Right.
to learn how to make their own videos.
Yeah, I have an online course, and then I also have a few items. I have a starters kit, so people can just get started with finding items and organizing them so that they can create a video as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the fact that you're focusing on creating video as opposed to just the pictures and the stories, because that's where everything is these days, is with video.
Right.
So it makes sense.
The whole idea is that you want to engage your family in it. You might have family members that are not genealogists, and may think, that all that stuff is, ancient history. But if you can tell a story and it engages a family member, then that helps them to realize they've got a history that's really important.
Mm-hmm. It also makes me think of when my grandmother was still alive, 25, 30 years ago. We used to occasionally take a tape recorder when we would go to visit her and have her talk about stories on tape. And of course, she'd be embarrassed about it, and she wouldn't want to talk on the tape. But if you just started asking her questions and she'd start telling stories, then she'd forget about the fact that the tape recorder was running.
Right.
But, the cassette tape days are gone. Now it's time to do that with a video on your smartphone. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's easy to do that. I also try to encourage people, if they've still got that old media, to do what they can to transfer it. And so I try to help give people some information so they can do that, because that's just as important, not to let that, over time, all the old media can get corrupted and damaged, and then you've essentially lost those stories. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I don't know where those tapes are. I should check into that.
Mm-hmm.
I know my mother transcribed some of them and put them into a little booklet for all of our relatives, which was really nice.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
So you come to this from a background as a librarian, is that right? So you have the research?
Yeah, I'm a librarian, so I have the research skills, and I've taught people how to do research, but I also was a video editor. I used to work in the film and video production industry before before I started my family, and before I went back to go to get my library science degree. I worked in corporate and video and other areas in the video industry, mostly doing editing. So that's what I bring to the table in terms of knowing how to organize things so producing a video can go more smoothly.
Mhm. And yet I see, you know, when you do your marketing videos and your samples and things, that you're not using fancy tools to do that. These are things that the average person can use, right? I know I've seen you use WeVideo for some
Right.
things, right?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of today. There's so many tools out there that make it very easy and that you don't have to spend a lot of money. There's apps you can download onto your phone. There's like WeVideo, you use that example. You can go online and just do that online. Just upload video or photos, or, you can record your a little voiceover right there
Mhm.
online. It's very simple to use.
Yeah. Yes, and on the smartphone, even easier with the apps. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's great. No, that's one of the things that I really liked, was that you're focusing on simple tools that
Right.
everybody can use. Do
Yeah.
do you have a sample of one of your videos that you can bring up and show us? I don't know if
Sure.
we can play it over the Hangout, but at least
I
we can
can
take a
show
look.
people where I have things on my YouTube channel so then they can go and
Oh,
watch them.
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and share my screen,
Yes.
if that's okay. And I'm going to pick this application window. And let's see. So I'll go ahead and show my YouTube channel, which for anyone who wants to go there, if you type in youtube.com, you can either search on Margaret Eves, or you can type in YouTube/C/Margaret Eves, all one word. But I have some playlists that show, for example, here where it says Ancestor Story Videos. These are more specifically videos about an ancestor where I tell a story. So that's a good example of what you can do. And I usually try to keep them short. Most of them are about 2 minutes long. This one up here is my 4 minute my epic video, but I try to encourage people just to think in terms of a story rather than trying to tell their whole family history. So
Yeah, I think that's great because it's a lot less pressure to do one
oh
story
yeah,
and
and
then
yeah,
string them together later if you want.
and then once you get one done, it's easy to just to do another one.
Yeah.
And then
Or
some of these are more tips and things about making video and doing family history.
right. And that's where we actually want to go mostly with this interview, although to me the genealogy part is fascinating too, but not really what we focus on this show usually.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating samples of what people could do. What other kinds of educational materials are you providing as part of your marketing?
Well, one of the videos I did here recently, where it's called Easy Interview Transcription, it's really a tool anyone can use for marketing. It's a really great. I compare two tools that if you've got something, either a video or an audio, maybe if you've done a podcast or an interview like this, I could take a recording. And Rev.com and Pop-Up Archive are two online tools for transcribing an audio file or a video file. And this is actually a Doodly video that I did that compares the two, and it's very short. But I mean, that's one way to do marketing, is you provide, a little bit of information that's helpful and useful. And then the Doodly video is people really watched it a lot. So it's
They're
kind of,
very visually engaging.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that was really easy and fun to do. And so that's one example of how anybody can use video for marketing.
Mhm.
That's one tool
Yeah,
I used was Doodly.
that's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
And just, for some of our listeners or viewers that might not be so familiar, what we're talking about really is, now it's called content marketing, but in the past it used to be called educational marketing. It's giving your potential customers some valuable information to help them with something. at the same
Right.
time that you're telling them a little bit about what services you offer, right?
Mhm.
But it's not an advertisement for your services. It's providing valuable information.
Right. Yeah. And this is a perfect example of that. Um, I'm actually talking about some other products, but in the end, it's a tool that you can use in doing what I do, either creating an ancestor video, or it could be for marketing, or for really so many other purposes. So
Mhm. Well, and as you said, that particular video is about other tools. It's not even what you provide, but part of what you're doing is establishing your expertise in that subject matter, right? That you're a
right.
good source for tools and information.
Yep.
So are you getting people to subscribe to your YouTube channel to come back and get more tools like that?
Yep. Yeah. So at the end, I think at the end of this video, I had a link to, um, I have an opt-in a lead magnet, which is it's something free that they can download and use.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of gives them, that way, then they're providing me with their email address, and then I can start sending them more information. It's most of what I do with my email group is I'm sending them information about what I'm doing to create videos. So it's just sort of additional education, additional helpful information.
So, oh shoot, my mind went in two directions with two different questions. um, let's take a look next, or talk next about, if you want to stop sharing for a minute, let's talk
Okay.
about, you mentioned, getting people's email addresses. How important would you say email is to your marketing plans?
It's definitely essential in, um, I mean, developing a list is an essential thing in trying to, get people to buy a product or service, because it makes them, it engages them. I think, as for someone who may be starting out, it's I think just as important to be just establishing yourself out there, whether it's on social media, so people become familiar with you. Um, and then when they eventually, they do something where they give you their email, they're really providing you, they're trusting you to, you know, by giving you that information. So it's really even more of a responsibility to then, continue to kind of nurture them and provide them with information they find useful.
Yeah.
So it's really important in terms of just continuing to build trust with customers.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I would agree with you that once they do give you their email address, you have to make sure that you're continuing to give them valuable information
Right.
and not
Right.
just pushing marketing and sales messages at them.
Right.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
that's not the reason they gave you their email,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Even though they know they will get some of that too,
Hmm.
probably, but
Yeah.
if it's not valuable, they'll unsubscribe, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. But I'll just mention too, another reason why it's important to get that email address is because ultimately you want to have your own connection to them directly
Hmm.
through email, rather than relying on them coming to your YouTube channel or going to your Facebook page or something like that. Because who knows what rules might change for those different social media sites.
Right.
You can't rely on them you always having access to those people.
Yeah. I do
So
think it's an interesting combination of both, because it's, even though you may have somebody's email address, um, I mean, nowadays, I think everybody's inundated by email, and getting people to continue to open your emails is always a challenge. So I think still having the social media out there and having people follow you, it kind of helps remind them. Because a lot of times my people who are on my email list are also following me on, in other places on Facebook.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think you're right. That's a good point, that it's easier probably for people to miss your email as it comes into their full inbox.
Mm-hmm.
So by being in front of them all day long, every day with social media, that you're a little bit more memorable that way, I guess I would say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, and that's a learning process for me too, is just remembering that just because I say it one time doesn't mean someone will remember it. It's okay to come back and present the same message either in a different way, or sometimes you can even just, maybe even a year later, just repeat the message, and it's not the end of the world. A lot of times people didn't see it the first time.
That's right. And even if they did a year later, they're probably not going to object to seeing it again, right? If they start to read it and say, oh, I already read this, they just stop reading it. That's not a big deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned other social media sites that you're using too. Let's go ahead and take a look at those if you want to bring them up.
Let's see.
And then probably one of the things we want to talk about a little bit is how much time does it take you to do all this social media? I know a lot of people probably feel like that's going to be a full-time job. There's no way they can take that on.
Well, one of the tools I've been using lately, for a while I was using Buffer, but one of the tools that's really helped me out is something called, and I'll go ahead and just take a peek here, Stencil. It's one of my favorite things. That allows you to create social media posts, and then it's really easy. It's like this is a Facebook post, and then it's really easy to resize it for Instagram and then for Twitter. And then there are different ones like this. Canva also does it.
Yeah, Canva's paid account has that ability. Yeah.
Stencil actually connects directly with Buffer. I can either send it directly to my social media outlets, or I can click here and it sends it to Buffer, and then, or click here, add to Buffer, and then that I can set it up in a queue or a schedule. So that's a tool that just makes my marketing life easier. Mm-hmm. There's another one called eClincher, which I've also been trying out, and it connects directly to Canva. And Canva is very similar to Stencil in how you can set up graphics and social media posts. But another way, I'll show you an example of, some people worry about, they've got to have a website and make it all beautiful. But there's a lot of ways. I mean, you certainly want to have your information, your blog posts or your posts, so that you have some control over it, whether you just save that and back it up. But you can post it. This is a LinkedIn publishing page. And I've set up a link to it called articlesbymargaret.com, and it goes directly to this page. So I can share some of my blog posts here on LinkedIn. And I think they have a really nice way of displaying it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a nice way to get your message out.
And then you share that link with people on different social media sites.
Right, I'll do that. Sometimes I'll have like for example, this post, search for Meteor. I actually posted on Twitter and got a lot of people responding to it on Twitter. And so that, then that sent them to this page, which was actually the the article, and so they could look at it here, and there's one of my other opt-ins. So that's how I got them. You know, I had posts on Twitter and on Facebook, and then that sent them to this LinkedIn article. So that was kind of, you know, one way to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And I've been having a lot of fun lately with Instagram. So I've kind of been exploring Instagram more. And I, you know, again, I'm very visual. And, you know, being that, you know, what I'm showing people to do is a very visual thing, doing video. I just find, you know, Instagram is very engaging and compelling. And it's a good way to get your word out and, you know, get people to recognize what you're doing and just know who you are and get to know you, like you, trust you. So
yeah, and a great place for sharing images, definitely.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of directing them, telling them what to do. If you want them to go to your opt-in magnet, you tell them that. That's what I've learned. You know, you've got to let them know what you want them to do.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that most of what you're sharing then is to send people back to that lead magnet?
Generally, yeah, to a lead magnet. Sometimes it's to it might be to a blog post or an article, so that they get kind of an idea of the context of where that all, so it's not always just a lead magnet. Sometimes it's to more information for an article, and that's so just kind of
a bigger piece of content.
Yeah, right, yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That
So
makes sense.
I'm gonna unshare here.
Okay.
So those are, I try to use, you know, I also use Twitter some, and I haven't been doing a lot of videos on Instagram, but that's one area I'm trying to explore. I know one, actually, I'll show real quick again. One of the things I did in Instagram that got a lot of response was from something I created with Ripple, R-I-P-L, which is an app that you can use. And people just really liked it. I'm trying to see if it's been a little bit. There it is. This one, the more children know about their family's history. I don't know if it probably won't play back really well, or would it?
Go ahead and try it.
I'll give it a click and see. Okay, whoops, let's stop that. Nice. Did that play back? Yeah, and people really responded.
I don't know if it'll be on the recording. We'll have to see. But.
Yeah, but it's music, and it's all, you know, there isn't really any narration. So people responded to that. They enjoyed it. And it's basically, I had a quote from a book, and actually from a speaker who I'd seen, who's, you know, sharing what's the value of children knowing their family history is it can help children be stronger and more resilient. And so that was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, and I saw that at the end. It was from someone's book, and I thought that's a great example of something that my sales coach refers to as a convincer. You're using somebody else's quote,
right,
to convince them about what you're saying.
Right. So. Yeah. And yeah, Bruce Feiler is truly a thought leader. He's a, you know, New York Times columnist who writes about families, and he's done books on, you know, being a good father, you know, parenting and family. And he wrote, I think it's called, the book called Walk through the Bible, where he actually walked through all these sites in,
Oh, in the Holy Land.
Yeah, in the Holy Land. But I heard him speak at a conference. So yeah,
he's a good convincer for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's great.
For your topic.
Uh-huh.
That's great. Well, you mentioned a lead magnet or a free offering that, for people who don't know that term, lead magnet, it's what you want to get people to sign up for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is? And I'm going to bring up the URL here on the screen.
Sure. I offer what I call ancestor story tools. They're actually some just short worksheets that help you brainstorm about items you might have at home, that if you know one of your ancestors' stories, a story about a grandparent or a great-grandparent, and you've got some items or photographs or maybe even some diary or journal articles or documents, those are all things you can use. You can take photographs of them or scan them and then tell an ancestor story with those. And so these are sheets that help you brainstorm that. And so to help you really get started on, making a video.
Great. So there's the URL where you can get that at the bottom of the screen, bit.ly/ancestor tools. And that's a great offer. Thank you, Margaret. And I just would encourage people who are watching this, even if you're not personally interested in doing anything about ancestry, go ahead and sign up for this so that you can see how Margaret is using that process to generate leads for her business, because you can do the same thing with your business.
Yeah, and I welcome you to, take a look at my YouTube channel and my Instagram page. If you search Margaret Eves either on YouTube or Instagram, it'll probably pop up. But it's those are really, actually, I find it a lot of fun. I enjoy taking the images, and then you don't, like I said, you don't have to write a novel or try to make a mini series. It's just, it can be short and sweet, and people like it.
Mm-hmm. I know one that you let me switch this back here. I still got your URL up. One that I remember really enjoying was when you were talking about one of your ancestors, I think, who was a college football player, right? And
yeah,
a photo of him.
Uncle.
That was really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun to do. And there's a lot of people, you may not have things at home, but there's a lot online that is in the public domain. If you can search at many archives. New York Public Library is a really good one for that. They've digitized a lot of their collections, and some you can actually do a search and click public domain, so that they're really trying to make these images accessible to people, and so that they'll use them. So that's one great way to approach it, is think in terms of not just what you have at home, but what would illustrate the world at the time of the person you're telling your story about.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings in kind of the social context, which is really engaging to people.
Right. Well, great. Thank you so much, Margaret, for sharing some of your marketing secrets with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Susan.
I'm getting a little bit of an echo there. I hope that's not going to ruin our recording, but
well, it sounds good to me.
Does it?
You're sounding okay.
All right. Any last words that you want to leave people with about something that you're doing with your marketing? What's really working for you, or what your goal is? Or
I think what's working for me is just to keep doing it. And if you have an image, either one that you've taken yourself, or one you found on something like Pixabay, but think in terms of what's engaging to you and what you're interested in, and just go with it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be fancy or high tech. It just
Right.
needs to be something that's related to your business and something that people are interested in, right?
Right.
So and keep it simple, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of about really engaging in a conversation too. It's, back and forth and getting in touch with people.
Yep. Yes. Well, thank you so much. And to
Yeah.
all of our listeners, I encourage you to check out Margaret's different social media sites that she shared with us. Margaret, maybe when the recording is up from this, you can go ahead and post some of those in a comment underneath the video too.
Sure.
That would be great.
Okay. Sounds good.
And again, go to bit.ly bit.ly/ancestor tools, and you can download Margaret's free gift that she shares with her potential leads and see how you can do that for your business. So again, my name is Susan Joy Schlief, signing off today for Creative Marketing TV, and a big round of thanks to Margaret Eves for joining us today.
Thank you.